Fujifilm lineup has grown quite big in the recent years. Nowadays there are many cameras and it can be quite tricky to pick one which would be right for you. In this video I'll show best Fujifilm cameras for any budget with the focus on photography. Personally, I've been using Fujifilm camera for almost a year. I have a separate video about it where I tell why I chose Fujifilm over Sony and how I feel about my choice. I'll put the link in the description, but for now let's go. Though it may be obvious for some people, but the basic Fujifilm camera that you can buy right now is the best beginner camera from Fujifilm. I'm talking about Fujifilm X-M5, which was released in 2024 and is rather a new addition to the lineup. Despite the very reasonable price tag of $799, it is a very powerful camera that supports interchangeable lenses from the Fujifilm lineup that can shoot 6K video, which is probably even more than you could ask from a $799 camera, and overall it's a great pick for a beginner. However, if we want to point out the downsides of Fujifilm X-M5, there are quite a few. First of all, it is a very small camera, and I'm not talking compact, I mean small. I've seen some people online complaining about how hard it is to hold the X-M5 in their hands because it is just tiny, like a toy camera or something. If that's not a problem for you, I should probably mention the EVF, because there is no viewfinder on X-M5. Fujifilm markets it as more of a video camera made for vlogging, but for us photographers the lack of the viewfinder is something to be aware of, because I don't know about you, but I would probably not be happy if I had to rely only on the LCD screen of my camera. But once again, it's a beginner camera made for beginners or people who just don't care that much about photography or video, or want to try something new and make a step up from their iPhone or, I don't know, any other smartphone. If you look at it from this lens, I'd say that it's a great pick for $799, but I should mention that it's a price for just a body. If you pick some fancy lens and, I don't know, add some accessories, it's a completely different price tag, and that's where we come to Fujifilm X-T30 II. It's still not the most expensive camera in the lineup, but I'd say it's something about mid-range. Initially it was released in 2021 for more than $1,000, but nowadays it's much cheaper and you can find new ones for about $899, which is not a big step up from the X-M5. What you get for this money is worth it, because you get the EVF, the better button placement and a lot of knobs and manual controls, which is great if you want to use it for photography, but you get 4K video instead of 6K, because once again it is a rather dated camera if we compare it to X-M5, but I don't think it's a huge problem anyway. It has a lightweight and portable body that is not very small like on X-M5, a hybrid autofocus and overall excellent image quality. I would definitely recommend this camera, and I should probably mention that I have been using it for around a year. Speaking about downsides, I should probably mention that it's not your first choice if you want to shoot more video than photo. For these scenarios I would probably go with X-S20 or X-T50, because once again X-T30 II doesn't have inbuilt image stabilization, it can go only as high as 4K 30 FPS, and it's probably not the top of the class for this money. Moving to professional or flagship cameras, I would recommend buying the Fujifilm X-T5, not the X-T50. I think that the X-T50 has a very weird price tag that makes it not worth it. Here's what I mean. You can buy the X-T30 II, which is not much worse than X-T50, for under $1,000. But if you pay a little bit more than the recommended price for X-T50, which is $1,399, you get the X-T5, a flagship of the lineup. Even though the specs between X-T5 and X-T50 are pretty similar, with 40 megapixel sensor and 6K video and stuff like that, I would probably still recommend the X-T5 because it has been built as a flagship. It has a better build quality, it has weather sealing, better battery life and overall better design. For example, it doesn't have this Fujifilm simulations slider that, I don't know, it's just useless. Why would you have that? Fujifilm X-T50 is marketed towards a less professional audience as something of a headline maker and a camera that would be popular just because it's marketed like that, while the X-T5 has proven itself through the time, has been used by many professionals. And on top of that, because it was released a couple of years ago, you can find it now cheaper than Fujifilm X-T30, which is a great deal if you ask me, and I would probably go with that camera right now. However, I want to point out that if you buy Fujifilm X-T30, you would still have fun with it. It's a great camera, and I understand that different people have different tastes in camera. It's just something I would recommend. Moving further, we have high-end cameras, and here the choice is pretty simple: Fujifilm X-H2. Probably if you want to buy that, you don't need my video and you have already tested a couple of cameras and you know what you're doing. 8K video, ProRes, high quality stabilization, that's just the best of the best. This camera is another level in comparison to X-T5, X-T30 and whole X-T lineup, and it's worth it. Probably the only thing that is not on par with the rest of the camera brands right now is that it is APS-C, not the full frame. But if you use Fujifilm cameras, you probably know about that and it's not a problem for you. Otherwise, why would you even consider Fujifilm? The last but not the least is specialty cameras section. It's a weird award to give, but it surely goes to X100V or X106 as some call it. It's a special camera in almost every aspect of it. It has a fixed lens but with a very sharp glass, and it's pretty simple to use, but it gives you amazing photos, and people all around the world queue to get it. It's a very hard camera to get because there are long wait lists. It has a hybrid viewfinder that in itself is already iconic, and a pretty nice design that encapsulates all the things that Fujifilm stands for. It looks retro, but at the same time very fashionable. If you don't want this camera, you are probably not serious about photo. I'm just kidding, but it's a great camera, and I would probably say that it stands out from the whole Fujifilm lineup as a special camera because it's just different. It's built different for different purposes. Summing up my thoughts, I would probably advise you to buy the camera that you have money for, because all of them are great. And no matter what you get, I'm sure it is possible to take great photos with it. But I would probably save up a little bit more if you were looking for X-T50 and buy X-T5. And if you want to buy something that will not age fast and will be useful and great for a couple of years, I would probably advise you against XM5. Anyway, it's been nice to meet you. Leave a comment down below if you disagree with me or if I helped you pick your next camera. Goodbye.